A lot of men completely misunderstand this first question because on the surface, it sounds so ordinary. A woman looks at you and casually asks, "Do you spend a lot of time alone?" And most men hear it as simple conversation. They think she is asking about routines, habits, or lifestyle. But that is not what is happening underneath. Women rarely communicate attraction directly, especially when they are speaking to a mature man. Instead, they approach emotionally first. They test the atmosphere around you before they ever reveal genuine interest. When a woman asks whether you spend time alone, she is not trying to figure out if you are lonely. She is trying to discover whether there is emotional room for her in your life. There is a huge difference between those two things. A man can be alone but emotionally unavailable. Another man can have a full busy life and still feel emotionally warm, grounded, and open. Women sense this difference almost immediately. This is why emotionally intelligent women pay attention to how a man responds rather than just what he says. Your energy matters more than the actual answer. A woman wants to feel whether your solitude comes from peace or emotional shutdown. She wants to know if you enjoy your own company because you are secure within yourself or because you have quietly disconnected from closeness after disappointments, heartbreak, or years of emotional isolation. And this becomes even more important with older men. Younger men often move through life with visible energy and constant motion, but mature men carry history. They carry past relationships, disappointments, responsibilities, and emotional scars that women can often sense without a single word being spoken. So when a woman feels drawn to an older man, she becomes careful. She does not want to force herself into a life that feels emotionally closed. She wants to feel invited naturally. That is why this question appears so often. "Do you spend a lot of time alone?" is actually her way of asking, would there be space for me if I stepped closer to you? She is trying to feel your openness without risking rejection directly. Women protect themselves emotionally in subtle ways. Instead of confessing attraction, they create small openings and observe how you respond to them. Think about the emotional psychology behind this. A woman who feels attracted to you is already imagining what your presence would feel like in her life. She is wondering whether being around you would feel calm or distant, warm or guarded, connected or emotionally cold. Women are extremely sensitive to emotional atmosphere, much more than most men realize. They pay attention to tone, facial expressions, pauses, emotional warmth, and even the way a man talks about his daily life. If you answer her question with bitterness, emotional heaviness, or complete detachment, the attraction often weakens immediately. Not because she dislikes you, but because women naturally pull away from emotional walls they cannot soften. A woman wants to feel that your life has depth and stability, but also emotional flexibility. She wants to feel that closeness with you would feel safe rather than exhausting. This is where many men accidentally shut the door without realizing it. A woman asks gently, "Do you spend a lot of time alone?" And the man responds with something cold like, "Yeah, people usually disappoint me," or "I stay away from relationships now." In his mind, he is simply being honest. But in her mind, she hears emotional exhaustion. She hears a man who may no longer have space for emotional connection. Women do not move toward emotional resistance. They move toward emotional steadiness. A grounded man answers differently. He understands the emotional meaning behind the question. He stays calm, relaxed, open. He might smile slightly and say, "I enjoy my peace, but I also appreciate good company," when the connection feels right. That kind of answer creates emotional safety immediately. Why? Because it tells her you are not desperate for attention, but you are also not emotionally closed. You enjoy your life, but there is still room inside it for someone meaningful. That balance is incredibly attractive to women. Emotional openness without neediness, confidence without emotional distance, strength without hardness. And what many men fail to realize is that women are deeply affected by emotional tone. Long before intimacy ever happens physically, it happens emotionally. A woman begins feeling connected to a man when she senses emotional warmth in his presence. She wants to feel welcomed, not tolerated, invited, not blocked out. This is why subtle questions matter so much in feminine psychology. Women often communicate desire indirectly because indirect communication feels emotionally safer to them. Instead of saying, "I'm interested in you," they ask questions that slowly reveal whether deeper connection is possible. These questions are emotional doorways, small invitations, and when a man recognizes them with awareness, the emotional tension between them grows naturally. But when he misses them completely, the moment disappears. Because women rarely repeat emotional invitations twice. If she opens the door and feels no emotional response from you, she often quietly steps back and protects her feelings. Most men never even notice when this happens. They assume the conversation simply faded naturally. But many times, attraction faded because the emotional signal was never recognized. So, the next time a woman asks if you spend a lot of time alone, listen carefully. She may not be asking about your schedule at all. She may be asking whether there is room for her somewhere inside your world. The second question women often ask a man they feel emotionally drawn toward sounds simple on the surface, but underneath it carries enormous meaning. She looks at you calmly and asks, "So, what are you looking for these days?" Most men think this is just casual conversation. They answer quickly without realizing the emotional weight behind it. But for a woman, especially one exploring attraction toward a mature man, this question is deeply personal. She is not asking about your schedule. She is not asking for a perfect life plan. She is trying to understand your inner direction. Women are naturally attracted to men who feel emotionally grounded. Not men who pretend to have everything figured out, but men who carry themselves with clarity and intention. And this becomes even more important as men grow older. A younger man is often allowed to be uncertain. Women may see his confusion as part of growth, but an older man is viewed differently. Women assume life has already taught him important lessons. They expect him to know himself more deeply. They expect emotional maturity, self-awareness, and a sense of direction. That is why this question matters so much. When a woman asks, "What are you looking for these days?" she is quietly trying to feel the emotional structure of your life. She wants to know whether you are still emotionally alive inside or whether life has slowly made you passive, disconnected, or emotionally numb. She is listening carefully for signs of purpose, emotional clarity, and masculine steadiness. And most men completely miss this. They answer with uncertainty because they think uncertainty sounds relaxed or low pressure. They say things like, "I'm just taking life day by day," or "I'm not really looking for anything," or "I don't know anymore." What they do not realize is that these answers often create emotional distance rather than attraction. To a woman, emotional direction matters deeply because it creates emotional safety. A woman wants to feel that the man in front of her is connected to his own life, that he has movement, intention, and emotional awareness. This does not mean you need to sound intense or overly serious. Women are not searching for perfection. They are searching for emotional clarity. There is a huge difference. A man can be calm, relaxed, and emotionally open while still knowing what matters to him. In fact, that combination is incredibly attractive because it creates stability without pressure. When a woman asks this question, she is imagining what closeness with you would actually feel like. She is wondering if your energy feels steady enough for her to emotionally lean into. Women connect emotionally before they connect physically, and emotional connection grows when a man feels internally grounded. If your answers sound emotionally lost, detached, or directionless, she begins feeling uncertainty herself. This is why masculine direction has such a strong effect on feminine attraction. Direction is not about controlling life perfectly. It is about emotional presence. It is about moving through life intentionally rather than drifting aimlessly. Women feel safer around men who seem emotionally awake and mentally clear about what they value. And here is something many men misunderstand. Purpose is attractive because it signals life energy. Women are deeply drawn to men who still feel engaged with life, especially mature men. A man over 50 who still has curiosity, emotional warmth, goals, peace, and meaningful focus feels magnetic because he radiates emotional vitality. It tells a woman that being close to him would feel emotionally alive rather than emotionally draining. This is why your tone matters more than your exact words. A man can say very little and still create attraction if his energy carries calm certainty. Imagine the difference between these two responses. One man says, I don't really know what I want anymore. Another man says, at this stage of life, I value peace, meaningful connection, and experiences that actually matter. Notice how different that feels emotionally. The second answer creates emotional possibility. It shows reflection, maturity, stability. It signals that this man understands himself. Women respond strongly to that because emotional clarity reduces emotional risk. It allows her to relax into the interaction rather than questioning where she stands. Women are constantly reading emotional consistency. They notice whether a man's words, energy, and presence align. A man who knows himself creates emotional calm around him. And emotional calm is deeply attractive to feminine energy because it feels safe. Women may enjoy excitement temporarily, but emotional safety is what allows genuine intimacy to grow. This is why the second question is never random. It is an emotional checkpoint. She is quietly asking herself, could I emotionally trust this man? Does his life have emotional direction? Would being close to him feel grounding or confusing? And your answer tells her far more than most men realize. Many men believe attraction is built through appearance, money, or status alone. Those things may create initial attention, but emotional connection is built differently. Emotional connection grows through presence, clarity, steadiness, and emotional awareness. Women remember how a man makes them feel emotionally, especially mature women. They are often far less impressed by performance and far more drawn to emotional authenticity. And this is exactly why older men can become more attractive with age when they truly understand feminine psychology. A mature man who feels emotionally calm, purposeful, and internally grounded carries a kind of energy younger men often lack. He feels safe without being weak, confident without arrogance, open without desperation. That energy changes the way women experience him completely. So when a woman asks you, what are you looking for these days? Do not rush to answer mechanically. Understand what she is really searching for beneath the words. She may not be asking about your plans at all. She may be asking whether your heart, your mind, and your life still move with purpose. One of the biggest mistakes men make when trying to understand women is expecting attraction to look obvious. Many men wait for direct flirting, clear compliments, or bold emotional confessions. But feminine attraction rarely works that way, especially with mature women and especially around older men. Women often communicate interest indirectly, emotionally, and subtly. And if you do not understand that, you can miss attraction completely while it is happening right in front of you. A woman who feels drawn to you usually does not want to risk exposing herself emotionally too quickly. She does not want to appear desperate. She does not want to feel foolish if her interest is not returned. So instead of openly declaring attraction, she begins testing emotional connection in softer ways. She asks questions. She creates small emotional openings. She watches your awareness, your energy, and your ability to notice what is happening beneath the surface. This is why subtle communication is such a huge part of feminine psychology. Women often reveal attraction through emotional curiosity before anything physical ever happens. They lean into conversation differently. They become more attentive to your responses. They ask questions that seem casual but carry emotional meaning underneath. And the reason many men miss this is because they listen only to the words rather than the emotional intention behind them. For example, when a woman asks whether you spend a lot of time alone, she's not simply discussing your lifestyle. She's exploring whether there is emotional room for closeness. When she asks what you are looking for these days, she is not conducting an interview. She is trying to feel your emotional direction, your sense of purpose, and whether being close to you would feel emotionally safe. Women communicate attraction emotionally because women experience attraction emotionally. That is something many men never fully understand. Men often approach attraction more directly. They move toward what they want physically or visually. But women tend to move through emotional atmosphere first. They respond to how a man feels emotionally, his steadiness, his awareness, his presence, his emotional control, his warmth. These things matter deeply because they shape how safe and connected she feels around him. And for mature men, this becomes even more important. Women often see older men differently than younger men. A younger man may attract attention through energy or appearance alone, but an older man attracts women through emotional presence. Women expect maturity from him. They expect calmness, stability, emotional intelligence. They pay attention to how he carries himself and whether he notices emotional nuance. This is why awareness becomes incredibly attractive. A woman feels deeply seen when a man notices subtle emotional communication without forcing her to explain herself directly. It creates emotional comfort. She feels understood without needing to expose herself completely. And that feeling is powerful because women are constantly evaluating emotional safety before opening themselves emotionally or physically. Most women will never say, "I'm trying to get closer to you." Instead, they create moments where closeness can naturally grow if the man recognizes the signal. They smile differently around him. Their tone softens. They ask more personal questions. They become curious about his emotional world. These are invitations, not accidents. And the sad reality is that many men unknowingly shut these moments down because they treat emotional communication too literally. A woman reaches emotionally toward them and they respond mechanically, distracted, or emotionally flat. Over time, the woman quietly pulls back, not because attraction was never there, but because emotional connection was never recognized. Women pay attention to emotional responsiveness more than men realize. They notice whether a man is emotionally awake or emotionally disconnected. A man who can sense emotional subtext without panic or confusion feels emotionally intelligent to a woman. That emotional intelligence creates attraction because it makes her feel emotionally safe. Safety is one of the most misunderstood aspects of attraction. Many men hear the word safety and assume women want weakness or softness. But emotional safety is actually created through masculine steadiness. A calm man who understands himself emotionally feels safe because he is not reactive, chaotic, emotionally unpredictable, or disconnected. He feels grounded. And grounded masculine energy allows feminine energy to relax and open naturally. This is why emotional awareness matters so much more than performance. Women are not constantly searching for perfect words. They are searching for emotional alignment. They want to feel that the man in front of them understands emotional dynamics without needing everything explained directly. That creates a deeper kind of attraction than surface-level flirting ever could, and this is exactly why subtle female communication becomes so important to understand as a mature man. Women often assume older men should naturally recognize emotional nuance better than younger men. They expect more awareness, more emotional patience, more emotional presence. When an older man understands these subtle emotional signals, he instantly stands apart because most men never learn how to truly listen beneath the words. Think about how attraction actually develops emotionally for women. It rarely happens in one dramatic moment. It builds quietly through emotional experiences, through feeling heard, feeling understood, feeling emotionally comfortable around a man's presence. Attraction grows when she feels emotionally welcomed rather than emotionally pressured. This is why subtle questions matter so much. They are not random conversation fillers. They are emotional bridges, small ways women test whether emotional connection can safely deepen. And every time a man responds with awareness, steadiness, and openness, attraction naturally strengthens. But when those moments are missed repeatedly, the emotional energy fades. Women rarely continue offering emotional invitations to a man who does not recognize them. They quietly protect themselves and move on emotionally without making it obvious. Most men never even realize the opportunity existed. That is why understanding feminine communication changes everything. The moment you stop listening only to words and start paying attention to emotional meaning, female attraction becomes much clearer. You stop wondering whether a woman is interested because you begin recognizing how women naturally express emotional curiosity and desire. And once you understand that, you will never look at these conversations the same way again.